Another day has come to an end, hasn't it? Now it's time to clear our minds and dive into a beautiful system of sleep. As the History and Sleep channel, as we do every night, tonight I have prepared a wonderful story for you. Tonight, our journey is to the breathtaking world of Alexander the Great. But this time, only the listeners will remain. You will be in Alexander's place. Let's see what you will experience in those epic conquests. What decisions will you make? Now, lean back. Close your eyes. Take a deep breath and let my voice take you away. A transformation from ancient Greek stories to a unique adventure stretching all the way to India. Before embarking on this time travel, I'm curious, where are you right now? What are you? Don't forget to share with me in the comments. Also, are there any historical topics you'd like for future episodes? I eagerly await your suggestions. Warm greetings to all my friends who leave me here alone every night, lost in the depths of history. In 356 BC, you opened your eyes to the world in Pella, Macedonia. It is said that the temple of Artemis in Ephesus burned down the night you were born. For some, this was an omen, for others, it was a harbinger of a fire like you. Even in your cradle, you were clearly no ordinary baby. Your mother, Olympias, believed you were descended from a god. Your father, King Philip II, believed great things were destined for you. These beliefs symbolize the dawn of a star like you. Your childhood was not spent playing in the best playgrounds like ours. From a very young age, you felt the responsibilities of a prince and a changing kingdom on your shoulders. Horse riding, archery, sword fighting, these were not games for you but systems of survival and domination. Online, with your tutor, you were nourished mentally as well. Being a student of Aristotle, one of the greatest philosophers of the time, whom your father had hired as your tutor, was a great privilege for you. From him, you didn't just learn philosophy, logic, and rhetoric. You also gained deep knowledge about medicine, science, literature, and politics. Homer's Iliad was your bedside book. You admired the heroics of Achilles and dreamed of becoming a legendary hero like him. So, as sharp as your sword was, so too was your mind becoming sharpened. Your father, Philip II, was a brilliant commander and politician who transformed Macedonia from its established history into one of the most powerful states. For you, he was both a role model and a rival to be surpassed. Philip united the Greek city-states, forming a pan-Hellenic league and was making preparations for a great expedition against the Persian Empire. You, young Alexander, witnessed your father's rise, participated in battles alongside him every year. At the Battle of Kyrenia, you commanded the left wing, showing your military genius for the first time. Growing up in your father's shadow made you burn with the desire to both learn from him and surpass him. Philip left you not just a kingdom, but also a well-trained army, a unified Greece, and most importantly, a vision of a great conquest against the Persians. In 336 BC, while preparations for the Persian expedition were ongoing, he was assassinated, leaving the throne to you, a young prince of only 20. Your father's sudden death shifted the burden of the Persian expedition onto your shoulders. Philip had consolidated the throne and prepared a perfect foundation for you to win one of the world's greatest empires. The star born at the dawn of Macedonia was preparing to illuminate the entire world. You ascended the Macedonian throne as a youth who had grown up too fast, but the real foundation of your rule was the strong groundwork laid by your father, Philip II. He had turned Macedonia from an ordinary kingdom into one that had even brought the Greek city-states to their knees with its disciplined army, effectively rewriting the fate of the Balkans. Philip's military genius, political cunning, and somewhat reckless ambition made him a ruler ahead of his time. When your father Philip ascended the throne in 359 BC, Macedonia was a rather ineffective kingdom, squeezed between primitive tribes and powerful Greek city-states. However, Philip, with his vision, boundless energy, and energetic talent, would change everything. One of Philip's greatest achievements was the radical transformation of the Macedonian army. He closely studied military tactics in Greece, drawing inspiration particularly from military units like Thebes' sacred band. He introduced the phalanx formation with the long spear, the sarissa, to his army. This phalanx, with its spears about 4 to 6 meters long, formed an impenetrable wall against enemy cavalry, much longer than previous Greek phalanges. He also integrated cavalry, light infantry, and siege weapons like catapults into the army, making it the most modern and effective military force of its age. He provided regular training for his soldiers, kept discipline at the forefront, and turned his army into a complete war machine. After consolidating his power, Philip began campaigns in the Balkans. He subdued neighboring communities, the Illyrians, Thracians. He fought the Greek city-states and brought them under his yoke one by one. At the Battle of Kyrenia in 338 BC, he decisively defeated the united armies of powerful Greek city-states like Athens and Thebes, establishing Macedonian hegemony over all of Greece. This victory showed your father was not just a military commander but also a political strategist. Another important achievement of Philip was bringing the Greek city-states under his rule under the League of Corinth, also known as the Hellenic League. This league, while free, was actually a result of your father's political genius. Philip had one goal when establishing this league: to launch the great expedition he had long dreamed of against the Persian Empire. He aimed to take revenge on the Persians, the common enemy of the entire Hellenic world. You, young Alexander, witnessed your father's rise, participated in battles alongside him every year. Commanding the left wing at the Battle of Kyrenia, you showed your military genius for the first time. Growing up in your father's shadow made you burn with the desire to both learn from him and surpass him. Philip left you not just a kingdom, but also a well-trained army, a unified Greece, and most importantly, a vision of a great conquest against the Persians. In 336 BC, while preparations for the Persian expedition were ongoing, he was assassinated, leaving the throne to you, a young prince of only 20. Your father's sudden death shifted the burden of realizing the Persian expedition dream onto your shoulders. Philip had consolidated the throne and prepared a perfectly ready ground for you to win one of the world's greatest empires. Your youth was shaped not only by the intrigues of the Macedonian court and military training but also by lessons from Aristotle, one of the brightest minds of the ancient world. In 343 BC, your father Philip invited Aristotle to Macedonia to educate you. This education, lasting about 3 years, deeply shaped your worldview, your understanding of separation and unity in the world. Aristotle, who had been educated at Plato's Academy in Athens, was a philosopher who broke new ground in many fields such as biology, logic, ethics, politics, rhetoric, and metaphysics. As your teacher, it wasn't just rote knowledge transfer. It also involved learning to question, analyze, and think critically. Aristotle's peripatetic, walking method at the Lyceum, this dialogical, alternative learning method sharpened your mind. From him, you didn't just learn the rules of life. The educational program was much more detailed. Philosophy and ethics. Aristotle's ethical and political philosophy gave you a developed perspective on governance, justice, and social order. These ideas may have shaped your initial thoughts on how you would govern the lands you would later conquer. Logic and rhetoric. Logic, which develops reasoning power, and effective speaking art, rhetoric, would give you a great advantage in both motivating your army and in political negotiations. Science and natural knowledge. Knowledge gained in scientific fields like biology, zoology, and geography helped you understand the different geographies, climates, and living beings encountered during your campaigns. This was critical for military planning. Medicine. Basic medical knowledge gained in treating wounded soldiers in battles would play an important role in the morale and protection of your army. Literature and art. Homer's Iliad was not just a storybook for you. It was also a guide to heroism and leadership. You admired Achilles' courage and his skill, never parting with the epic. Aesthetics and art lessons from Aristotle also laid the foundations for the cities you would later found, like Alexandria, and for Hellenistic art. Aristotle instilled in you not only theoretical knowledge but also practical wisdom. It broadened your worldview and made you more open-minded towards different cultures. This education ensured you would be a leader who ruled not just with brute force but also with intellect and knowledge. This magnificent blend of military science and philosophy set you apart from other commanders and opened the doors of great conquests to you with your intellectual capital. As much as the army and kingdom your father left you, what Aristotle planted in your mind was one of your greatest inheritances. Your father, Philip, had completed all his preparations for the Persian expedition. He was practically ready to conquer the world. But fate had such plans that he was gone in an instant. You know what they say, plans fell through. Well, for you, the situation was under control. With your father's death, at only 20, you found yourself in the midst of a massive power vacuum and ambitious rivals. This was not just an accession to the throne, it was a difficult test where you had to prove your legitimacy with your sword in mind. The year 336 BC was a turning point for Macedonia. Your father, Philip, had completed preparations for the great expedition he would launch against the Persian Empire. Wedding celebrations were being held for his daughter Cleopatra and his nephew Attalus. However, these celebrations ended in tragedy. During the wedding ceremony, Philip was assassinated by one of his own bodyguards, Pausanias, and lost his life. This sudden and shocking death deeply shook Macedonia and the entire Greek world. Your father's death was both a great loss and a sudden opportunity for you. You were only 20 years old and had to sit on the Macedonian throne. However, this was not an empty seat. It was full of internal and external threats. Internal rivals, children from your father's other wives and their powerful relatives could claim rights to the throne or try to undermine your authority. Especially your father's newborn son from his new wife Cleopatra was a potential threat to you. Macedonian aristocracy. Among the Macedonian nobles, there were different views and ambitions about who would ascend to the throne. Your young age could cause some nobles to underestimate you or try to manipulate you for their own interests. Greek city-states. The Greek city-states united under your father's power, the League of Corinth, saw Philip's death as an opportunity to regain their independence. Cities like Athens and Thebes were showing signs of rebellion against Macedonian rule. To ascend the throne, you had to take swift and decisive steps to eliminate these threats. First, you acted to win over the Macedonian aristocracy and neutralize your rivals. You appointed your own supporters to key positions and eliminated individuals posing a potential threat, including your father's wife and son. These ruthless steps were necessary to secure your power. Then, you turned your eyes to the Greek city-states. You demanded the leadership of the League of Corinth that your father had founded. With a lightning-fast military campaign into Greece, you quickly subdued cities showing signs of rebellion. Particularly, as an example to others, you utterly destroyed the city of Thebes for its rebellion and sold the survivors into slavery. This ruthless move sent a strong message to the other Greek city-states: Macedonian rule continued, and the price of opposing you was heavy. Thus, you masterfully managed the chaos that emerged after your father's death. Combining military power, political intelligence, and ruthlessness, you strengthened your throne. In just a year, you became not only the king of Macedonia but also the leader of the unified Hellenic League, your father's legacy. This difficult test was a starting point for the great conquests to come. You were now ready to fulfill your father's unfinished dream against the Persian Empire. Your father Philip's assassination and your ascension to the Macedonian throne created an opportunity for separation for the Greek city-states in the League of Corinth, the Hellenic League. These states, which had united under Philip's charisma and military power, were not very enthusiastic about the rule of a young king. Your youth at 20 was perceived as weakness by some, and this situation triggered tendencies of rebellion, especially in leading cities like Athens and Thebes. They saw this moment as an opportunity to break free from Macedonia and regain their old independence. For you, this situation was your first and critical test of authority after consolidating your throne. The Greek city-states submitting to you was of vital importance so you could turn to greater goals like the Persian expedition. If you couldn't prove your authority in Greece, a constant threat and instability would remain behind you. To resolve this situation, you decided and acted quickly. Lightning military movement. Immediately after ascending the throne, you won over the Macedonian aristocracy to your side and eliminated internal rivals. Then, without waiting for the rebellion plans of the Greek city-states to mature, you descended into Greece with a large military force. This sudden movement caught many cities planning rebellion unprepared and frightened them. You arrived in Corinth and convened the assembly of the league your father had founded. There, you declared yourself your father's legitimate heir and the new leader of the league. Many city-states, faced with your military power and determined stance, submitted and accepted you as leader. However, the city of Thebes insisted on resisting Macedonian rule. They even rebelled openly, believing unfounded rumors of your death that had emerged. Thebes' move was an opportunity for you to teach a lesson. You quickly besieged the city and ruthlessly crushed the resistance. You razed Thebes to the ground, destroyed all its buildings, only the house of the poet Pindar was spared, and sold the survivors into slavery. This ruthless act created a shock effect on the other Greek city-states and had a deterrent impact. Cities like Athens, after seeing Thebes' fate, submitted to you and abandoned any thoughts of rebellion. This event proved you were not just a young prince, but also a determined leader who would continue, even surpass, your father's legacy with determination. Thus, you consolidated your authority over the Hellenic League and prepared the necessary ground for a great Persian expedition with a unified Greece behind you. This first test of authority was a preview of your military genius and political cunning. You consolidated authority in Greece. You brought the rebels to heel and became the leader of the Hellenic League. But in reality, your true goal was much bigger. The giant Persian Empire that had made Greece bleed for years, burned your ancestors' lands. You know what they say, an unsettled account is not left behind. Well, for you, that account was with the Persians. This wasn't just about conquering new lands. It was also about taking an old revenge on behalf of the entire Hellenic world and changing the scales of history. Your father Philip's greatest unfinished dream, after his assassination, was to launch a great expedition against the Persian Empire to avenge the entire Hellenic world. After quickly consolidating both your throne in Macedonia and your authority over the Hellenic League following his death, you took this sacred task upon your own shoulders. Setting your sights on the Persian Empire was not only about realizing your father's vision but also a unique opportunity to write your own name in golden letters. Background of the Pan-Hellenic Revenge Expedition. This expedition was legitimized not as an ordinary war of conquest but as a Pan-Hellenic, all-Greek, revenge campaign. Its real origins lay in the Persian Wars about 150 years prior, 499 to 449 BC, when the Persians launched two major attacks on Greece. The Persians had burned Athens, looted Greek temples, and posed a great threat to the Greek city-states. Although the Greeks achieved miraculous victories in these wars, this Persian aggression was etched into the Hellenic memory as a wound. This historical hostility and desire for revenge would be a powerful motivation and source of political legitimacy for your campaign. Military and logistical preparations. Your father Philip had already made significant preparations for the Persian expedition. However, the final touches and command of this massive operation fell to you. Army gathering and training. The Macedonian army you inherited consisted of the disciplined phalanx, long sarissa infantry, and skilled cavalry your father had established. In addition, troops from the Greek city-states of the Hellenic League joined the army. This was truly a Hellenic army. The soldiers were ready for a long and difficult expedition, motivated by the desire for revenge against the Persians. Logistics and supply, feeding, equipping, and providing for thousands of soldiers required extensive logistical planning. Ships were prepared for crossing to Anatolia. Supply points were determined, and resources along the campaign route were analyzed. Your army was ahead of its time not only in military power but also in logistical capacity. Financial resources. A great campaign meant great expense. The Macedonian treasury, gold inherited from your father, and revenues from newly conquered lands were allocated to this expedition. However, the riches of the Persian Empire would cover these costs. Political and propaganda preparations. Before the expedition's launch, the necessary political steps were taken to leave Greece. You secured the loyalty of the Greek city-states and obtained from the League of Corinth the decision to fight against the Persians. You also observed discontent and potential allies within the Persian Empire. In the spring of 334 BC, you set out with your army to cross the Hellespont, the Dardanelles, into Asia. This crossing was not just the crossing of a geographical boundary, it was also the de facto start of the great revenge campaign the West was launching against the East. History was about to change, and you were the main actor of this change. The fate of the Persian Empire was now at the tip of your sword. You were ready for the revenge expedition against the Persian Empire. You had the entire Hellenic world behind you. You know what they say, if speech is silver, silence is gold. But now you were stepping onto lands where not your words but your sword would speak. In the spring of 334 BC, you set foot on Asian soil with your army across the Hellespont, the Dardanelles. This was not just the crossing of a strait, it was also the beginning of your dreams, your father's vision, and the greatest epic of conquest in history. The first enemy, the first great pitched battle, the Battle of the Granicus. Where your fate in Asia would be written. After crossing the Hellespont with the Macedonian army, the governors, satraps, of the Persian Empire's western provinces, Anatolia, moved to counter your advance. In May 334 BC, Your army and Persian forces faced each other on the banks of the Granicus River near Troy. This was the first great pitched battle of the Asian campaigns, and a vital victory was needed to prove your strength against the Persians. Persian army and strategy. The Persian army consisted of the united satraps of the region and many Greek mercenary soldiers, hoplites. They were specially commanded. The Persians took a defensive position on the high and steep bank on the opposite side of the river. Their aim was to make it difficult for your army to cross the river and easily target them during the crossing. This was a quite integrated and strong defensive strategy. The mercenary Greek heavy infantry, hoplites, formed a solid wall in the center of the army. Alexander's decision-making and tactics. Your commander suggested finding a more suitable crossing point or waiting until morning before the costly river crossing. However, as a determined and courageous leader, you rejected these suggestions. You wanted to surprise the enemy and seize the initiative from the first moment. Despite the river's strong current and steep banks, you ordered an immediate attack. As the battle began, the Macedonian cavalry and light infantry on the left wing of your army launched an assault towards the opposite bank. This first wave was designed to distract and pin down the enemy. You personally took position at the head of the elite cavalry unit known as the companion cavalry on the right wing of your army and led the charge into the river. Your presence alone at the front lines boosted your soldiers' morale and inspired them. The river crossing faced intense resistance from Persian archers and cavalry. However, thanks to your military discipline and their efforts, you managed to reach the opposite bank. Then, your true military genius was shown. Drawing the enemy to the center, you forced the Persian wings and cavalry to gather in the center. Flanking from the sides, the Macedonian phalanxes, after completing the river crossing, began to break through the Persian lines. Your encirclement, you, with your cavalry, quickly surrounded the Persian cavalry wings, pressing them towards the center. Fleet support. The small fleet you had left in the Hellespont, while not directly involved in the battle, may have provided psychological support by securing the river and preventing possible enemy escape routes. Outcome and significance of the battle. The Battle of Granicus ended in a complete rout for the Persian army. Most of their generals were killed or captured. Especially the mercenary Greek hoplites suffered heavy losses. This battle opened the gates of Asia for you and your army. Opening of Western Anatolia. The western part of Anatolia opened its doors to you with this victory. Persian resistance here was broken. Moral and reputation gained. This first great victory increased your soldiers' trust in you and became the first in a series of victories against the Persians. Your fame spread rapidly throughout the Hellenic world. Logistics secured. The conquest of Anatolia provided an important logistical base and supply source for your future campaigns. The Battle of Granicus was the first major step proving that Alexander the Great was not just an heir but also a powerful commander in his own right. With your first victory in Asia, it heralded the beginning of a long and epic conquest saga that would change the fate of the Persian Empire. After your victory at Granicus, Asia lay wide open before you. In these lands, considered a Persian stronghold, there were not only enemies for you but also Greek cities waiting to be liberated. You know what they say, one door closes and 1,000 doors open. Well, after Granicus, thousands of new cities and countless opportunities appeared before you. However, in Anatolia, an ancient secret that has puzzled conquerors throughout the ages awaited you, the Gordian knot. But it wasn't just a knot, it was also a legend symbolizing your destiny. After the decisive victory at the Battle of Granicus, Persian resistance in Anatolia was significantly broken. Conquering the Anatolian Peninsula, which lay before you as a rich and strategically important region, was the second major phase of the Persian expedition. During this process, you used both your military power and political intelligence to take Anatolia into your own hands. Ephesus and Miletus. In Ephesus, you overthrew the pro-Persian oligarchy and re-established democracy. At Miletus, you faced strong resistance. You besieged and captured the city. Siege of Halicarnassus. One of the toughest resistances was at Halicarnassus, defended by the Persian general Memnon. This was the Persians' last important naval base in the Aegean. After a long and difficult siege, you managed to capture the city. However, Memnon and a significant part of the Persian fleet managed to escape. This siege once again demonstrated your determination and mastery of siege techniques. During the conquest of Anatolia, you pursued a strategy of capturing coastal cities to completely eliminate Persian naval power. Your aim was to reduce the power of their fleet and establish naval superiority. Thus, any possible Persian counterattack against Greece was also prevented. The Gordian knot and the fulfillment of the prophecy. In the spring of 333 BC, advancing into the interior of Anatolia, you reached Gordion, the ancient capital of Phrygia. Here was the legendary Gordian knot, believed to have been tied by King Gordius, father of Midas. According to the prophecy, whoever untied this complex knot would become the ruler of Asia. This was a legendary puzzle that no one had been able to solve. You too tried to untie the knot but couldn't succeed with conventional methods. At this point, you made that famous move symbolizing your military and leadership genius. You drew your sword and cut the knot in a single blow. This action represented much more than just untying a knot. Pragmatic solution. It showed your ability to find direct solutions to complexities. Fulfillment of destiny. By interpreting the prophecy in your own way, you strengthened the perception that you were the destined ruler of Asia. This reinforced rumors that you had a divine mission. Symbol of sovereignty. Cutting a political and religious symbol with a military sword showed that military power could overcome any obstacle. The Gordian knot incident became a symbol of the Anatolian conquest. By capturing the western and southern coasts of Anatolia, you significantly broke Persian power in the region and secured an important logistical base for yourself. Now you were ready to advance towards the heart of the Persian Empire, to face the great King Darius. You conquered Anatolia. You cut the Gordian knot with your sword and advanced towards the heart of the Persian Empire. But you knew that the biggest obstacle on this journey was the great king of Persia, Darius himself. You know what they say, entering the lion's den. Well, you were heading straight for that lion's den. In 333 BC, at Issus, the two great commanders of history would face each other for the first time. This was not just a battle, it was a confrontation that would determine the fate of two great empires and change history forever. After completing your conquests in Anatolia, you and your army turned south towards Cilicia. The great king of the Persian Empire, Darius III, had gathered his army to stop your advance and defend his lands, personally taking command. Darius was a king at the head of the world's most powerful empire of that time, commanding a massive army. He chose the plain of Issus to face you for the first time. Darius's army and strategy. Darius's army greatly outnumbered yours. Some historians estimate this number between 250,000 and 600,000. His army included elite Persian infantry, mercenary Greek hoplites, and countless troops from all corners of the empire. Darius actually realized that the narrow plain of Issus wouldn't allow him to fully utilize his numerical superiority. it was actually geography in your favor. However, instead of retreating, he positioned his army there. His aim was to surround you in a narrow area, crush you with superior numbers, and make river crossings difficult. Alexander's countermoves and tactics. Upon hearing news that Darius was moving towards Issus, you moved your army south in the opposite direction from where he was. Thinking you were continuing towards Cilicia, Darius passed through the Cilician gates and moved towards Antioch. You, however, circling behind with your army, passed north of Issus and cut off his supply lines. This put you in a critical position. But you turned this disadvantage into an advantage. Darius's massive army being positioned in a narrow plain nullified his numerical superiority. You quickly turned your army around and faced Darius on the plain of Issus. The battle took place in November 333 BC. Features of your battle plan: strengthening the wings, you anchored your army's left wing to the sea to prevent it from being outflanked. You reinforced the right wing with strong cavalry. Macedonian phalanx. The Macedonian phalanx in the center of your army had the task of breaking through the Persian lines. Alexander's critical charge. At the most critical moment of the battle, you personally led the companion cavalry in a lightning-fast charge against the left wing of the Persian army, directly towards the center where Darius was. This unexpected and bold move created a great shock effect in the Persian ranks. Darius's flight. Faced with this direct attack against him, Darius panicked and began to flee the battlefield. The Persian army, with the flight of its commander, quickly dispersed and suffered a complete rout. Darius abandoned his armor, his bow, and even his family, his mother, wife, and children, on the battlefield, barely saving his own life. Outcome and consequences of the battle. The Battle of Issus was not only a great military victory for you but also a very important blow to the Persian Empire. Darius's flight and loss of prestige. The great king of the Persians fleeing the battlefield deeply shook his authority and morale. The Persian army could not easily recover. Massive booty and capture of the royal family. The Persian camp was captured, and immense wealth was obtained. Darius's mother, wife, and children were taken prisoner. Your humane treatment of them showcased the character and human side of your rule. Complete security of Anatolia. With this victory, Anatolia came under your control, and the way was open for you to advance south towards Egypt with a secure rear. The Battle of Issus once again proved your military genius and was a turning point that accelerated the decline of the Persian Empire. In your first encounter with Darius, you shattered the myth of Persian invincibility and took one of the biggest steps on your path to becoming conqueror of the world. After your victory at Issus, you put the great King Darius to flight. You scattered the Persian army. But you knew that to completely subdue the Persian Empire, you needed supremacy not only on land but also at sea. You know what they say, a conqueror cannot be at peace with the sea. Well, for you, that last stronghold at sea was the Pearl of Phoenicia, the city of Tyre. But it wasn't just a siege. It was also an epic test of your engineering genius, patience, and military determination. The whole world was watching with curiosity how you would achieve this impossibility. After the decisive victory at the Battle of Issus, you put the great King Darius to flight. You scattered the Persian army. But you knew that to completely subdue the Persian Empire, you needed supremacy not only on land but also at sea. You know what they say, a conqueror cannot be at peace with the sea. Well, for you, that last stronghold at sea was the Pearl of Phoenicia, the city of Tyre. It wasn't just a siege, it was an epic test of your engineering genius, patience, and military determination. The whole world was watching with curiosity how you would achieve this impossibility. After the decisive victory at Issus, the main resistance of the Persian Empire was broken. However, the Persians still had a strong navy, and this fleet posed a potential threat to your supply lines in the Aegean Sea. To eliminate this threat, you decided to capture the Phoenician cities along the Mediterranean coast that the Persian navy used as bases. These cities were also the Persian Empire's gates to the west and important trade centers. The cities in Phoenicia generally did not show resistance in the face of your advance. Cities like Aradus and Byblos opened their gates to you and surrendered. However, the strongest and most colorful city of Phoenicia, Tyre, resisted. The importance of Tyre and its unassailable position. Tyre was an island city about 800 meters offshore, surrounded by strong walls. This island fortress, protected by deep waters, had been besieged many times throughout history but had almost never been conquered. The Tyrians, confident in their unassailable position and strong fleet, decided to resist you. They had sent their women and children to safety in Carthage with the support of their fleet. For you, the conquest of Tyre was of vital importance. Neutralizing Persian naval power, Tyre was the most important port of the Persian fleet in the Mediterranean. Capturing it would completely eliminate Persian naval power and remove the threat of an attack on Greece. Logistical security, you needed safe harbors along the Mediterranean route for the continuation of the Persian campaign. Prestige, conquering a city that had never been captured throughout history would once again prove your military genius to the whole world. The Siege of Tyre, achieving the impossible. Upon Tyre's decision to resist, you besieged the city in 332 BC. The siege, lasting about 7 months, is considered one of the most epic examples of engineering and perseverance in history. Since Tyre was an island, a direct assault was not possible. At this point, your military genius spoke again, and you decided to implement perhaps one of the boldest and most ambitious siege strategies of all time, building a causeway to the sea, a mole or causeway. Causeway construction, your soldiers and engineers began constructing a massive stone and wood causeway from the shore to the island. This causeway was 60 meters wide and nearly 1 kilometer long. The Tyrians constantly tried to hinder this construction by attacking with their ships, throwing stones with catapults, and setting fire to the causeway. You countered these attacks by building defense towers and catapults. Gaining naval advantage, to break Tyre's naval power, you gathered ships from cities like Sidon, Cyprus, and Rhodes, forming your own fleet. This fleet played an important role in neutralizing Tyrian ships at sea and protecting the causeway construction. Siege towers and catapults. After the causeway was completed, you moved massive siege towers and catapults close to the island walls. These towers were used to launch attacks over the walls into the city. After a long and bloody siege, your troops managed to breach the walls and enter the city. Although the Tyrians resisted heroically, they could not hold out against your forces, which were superior in numbers and determination. A large part of the city was destroyed. About 8,000 Tyrians were killed, and over 30,000 were sold into slavery. Your victory at the Siege of Tyre was not just a naval success for you, it was a milestone that reinforced your legend of invincibility. Persian naval power in the Mediterranean was completely broken, and now there was no obstacle left to your advance towards Egypt. This epic siege went down in history as an example of what is possible in military engineering and human perseverance. After your victory at Tyre, you advanced south along the Mediterranean coast and reached Egypt. In late 332 BC, Egypt, under Persian rule, became a new target for you. But Egypt was different from other Persian provinces. The Persians had disrespected the Egyptians' religion and values, looted their temples, and oppressed the people with heavy taxes. This caused the Egyptians to hate the Persians and wait for a liberator. Your arrival in Egypt was welcomed almost as a liberator rather than a conqueror. The Persian governor, Mazax, surrendered to you without any resistance. The Egyptians saw you as the legitimate heir of the pharaohs and embraced you with great enthusiasm. This was a victory won without bloodshed for you. During your stay in Egypt, you not only made military and political arrangements but also took important steps that would shape your imperial image. Religious respect and pharaoh title. You showed great respect to Egypt's ancient religion and traditions. You offered sacrifices to local gods and built good relations with the priests. You went to Memphis, wore the traditional pharaonic crown of Egypt, and took the title of pharaoh. This move reinforced the Egyptians' loyalty to you and strengthened your legitimacy. Siwa Oasis and deification rumors. You visited the Temple of Ammonius located in the depths of Egypt's western desert, at the Siwa Oasis. There, the priests of Ammonius addressed you as the son of Ammonius. This further strengthened rumors of your divine origins and reinforced your own belief in being the son of a god. This event would later form the basis of your image as a god-king. Foundation of Alexandria, 331 BC. One of the most important steps you took in Egypt was the foundation of the city of Alexandria on the Mediterranean coast at the mouth of the Nile, bearing your own name. This city would become not just a military base but also the center of Hellenistic civilization, trade, and wealth. You personally oversaw the city's planning and assigned tasks to architects and engineers. Alexandria quickly became one of the greatest and most important metropolises of the ancient world, famous for its huge library and lighthouse. The conquest of Egypt was for you not just a new piece of land but also an experience that shaped the cultural and political identity of your empire. Unlike the Persians, your respect for local customs and beliefs would be the key to leaving a lasting legacy in the lands you conquered. When you left Egypt, you left behind not just a new province but also a city bearing your name and an image surrounded by deification rumors, stronger than ever. Now your path was towards the heart of the Persian Empire, to the final showdown with the great King Darius. You conquered Egypt. You kept the gods on your side and founded a city bearing your name. But you knew that the fate of the Persian Empire had not yet been sealed. You know what they say, fate weaves its webs. Well, those webs would tie their final knot in the wide plains of Mesopotamia in 331 BC, at Gaugamela. Facing you once again was the great King Darius and the largest army the world had seen up to that time. But it wasn't just a battle, it was the final reckoning of two civilizations, two leaders, and two different worlds. This battle would declare the collapse of the Persian Empire and your absolute conquest. After the heavy defeat at the Battle of Issus and the capture of the royal family, the great king of Persia, Darius, had time to regroup. While you were in Egypt, Darius gathered new troops from every corner of the empire, forming the largest army in history up to that time. His aim was to decisively defeat you with this massive force and restore the Persian Empire's prestige. Choice of battlefield and Darius's preparations. Darius, unable to use his numerical superiority in the narrow valley of Issus, chose Gaugamela, on a wide, flat plain in Mesopotamia, near modern-day Mosul, Iraq. This flat terrain was perfect for the maneuvers of Persian cavalry and scythe chariots. Darius not only gathered his soldiers but also leveled the terrain to allow his chariots and cavalry to deploy. His army is estimated to have had between 250,000 and 1 million soldiers. Although modern historians find this number exaggerated, it was certainly many times larger than your army. Indian war elephants were also present in the Persian army. Alexander's strategy and genius. You reached Gaugamela in the autumn of 331 BC. Some of your commanders suggested attacking at night to surprise the massive Persian army. However, you rejected this proposal, thinking it could lead to chaos. You calmly decided to fight during the day and use your tactical genius. Defensive posture and reserves. You arrayed your army in a defensive formation, keeping the wings longer than usual and reinforced with reserve units to guard against encirclement. You also formed an oblique phalanx formation to your rear to give your cavalry room for wide maneuvers. Hammer and anvil tactic. As the battle began, you personally led the companion cavalry on the right wing of your army in a sudden and oblique charge against the Persian left wing. This maneuver forced Darius to stretch his own wing, thus creating a gap in the Persian line. Wearing down the center and focusing on Darius, while your cavalry charge engaged the Persian wings, the Macedonian phalanx advanced towards the center, crushing the Persian infantry from the front. This anvil task held the enemy fixed. Critical penetration. You, with your cavalry, slipped through the gap opened in the Persian line, heading directly towards the center where Darius was. This move decided the fate of the battle. Darius panicked when he saw you coming directly at him again and began to flee the battlefield. Outcome and the end of the Persian Empire. Darius's flight completely broke Persian morale, and the massive army quickly dispersed. The battle ended with an absolute and crushing victory for you. The Battle of Gaugamela was not just a pitched battle, it was the day the Persian Empire effectively ended politically and militarily. Collapse of the empire. Darius's flight showed the empire was now indefensible. The Persian Empire could not recover after this defeat. Massive booty, rich capitals of the Persian Empire like Babylon and Susa opened their gates to you after this victory, and immense treasures of gold, silver, and valuables were captured. Pursuit of Darius and his end. Darius continued to flee but was betrayed by his own satrap, Bessus, and killed. You avenged Darius by punishing his killers and thus became the legitimate heir to the Persian throne. The Battle of Gaugamela was the most important victory that cemented Alexander the Great's place in military history and earned him the title, the Great. You brought one of the greatest empires in world history to its knees and became the Lord of Asia. Now before you lay only new lands to capture and your vision of building your own empire. After the decisive victory at the Battle of Gaugamela, the fate of the Persian Empire was sealed. With Darius's flight and the dispersion of his army, the main Persian resistance was broken. Before you lay two of the richest and most important capitals of the Persian Empire, Babylon and Susa. These cities were not only political centers but also famous for their immense treasures. Conquest of Babylon, center of science and humanity. After Gaugamela, you advanced south with your army and reached the ancient city of Babylon in the heart of Mesopotamia. Babylon was a metropolis famous for its thousands of years of history, advanced science, astronomy, and art, one of the world's greatest centers of civilization. The legendary Hanging Gardens of Babylon, the reality of which is debated, and its high ziggurats were proverbial for their wealth. Peaceful surrender. The Persian governor of Babylon, Mazias, surrendered to you without any resistance. The city's gates were open to you, and the people of Babylon welcomed you with great enthusiasm as a liberator from Persian rule. Babylonian priests, oracles, and nobles also swore allegiance to you. This peaceful surrender was both a great prestige for you and a valuable city captured without bloodshed. Religious and cultural respect. During your stay in Babylon, as in Egypt, you showed great respect to the local people's religion and customs. The reconstruction of the Marduk temple was planned, and behavior in accordance with local traditions was observed. This approach was the key to winning the hearts of the local people in the lands you conquered. Immense treasures, the Persian treasures in Babylon were of unimaginable size. According to historical records, these treasures contained tons of gold, silver, precious stones, and artifacts. This wealth would not only meet your army's needs but also cover the costs of your campaigns and finance the consolidation of your empire. Conquest of Susa, ancient capital of Persian kings. After Babylon, you turn towards Susa, the other important capital of the Persian Empire. Susa was one of the ancient and prestigious capitals of the Achaemenid Empire. It had hosted the summer palaces and immense treasures of Persian kings for centuries. Easy conquest, Susa, like Babylon, surrendered to you without any resistance. The Persian governor and people opened the city to you. Great treasures, the treasures in Susa were even greater than those in Babylon. Here, you captured an unprecedented amount of gold, silver, jewels, and other valuables. Much of Darius's personal treasury and the empire's reserve treasury were here. Legend has it that transporting these treasures required thousands of camels and mules. Cultural values, Susa was also the center of the Persian Empire's cultural and artistic indicators. The artifacts captured here showcase the power of Persian art and architecture. The conquest of Babylon and Susa not only provided you with immense wealth but also solidified your absolute dominance over the Persian Empire. The peaceful acquisition of these cities and the respect you showed to the local people demonstrated that you were not just a conqueror but also an intelligent administrator and a visionary leader. Now the heart of the Persian Empire was completely in your hands. And your next target was the ceremonial capital, Persepolis. You captured the treasures of Babylon and Susa. You completely ruled the heart of the Persian Empire. But you knew that the real essence of an empire lies not only in its treasures but also in its spirit. Well, the spirit of the Persians beat in their ceremonial capital, Persepolis. You know what they say, to strike at the heart of the enemy. Well, you set your sights on that heart, the pride, sovereignty, and faith of the Persians. This was not just the capture of a city, it was also the symbolic destruction of an ancient empire and the display of a revenge to be etched into history. After the peaceful conquest of Babylon and Susa, you advanced towards the ceremonial capital of the Persian Empire, Persepolis. In 330 BC, Persepolis was the heart of the Achaemenid Empire, a magnificent city where kings were crowned and displayed their power and glory. Here was not only a capital but also the symbol of Persian national pride and religious beliefs. The importance and symbolism of Persepolis's capture. Persepolis was more of a ceremonial and art center than a military fortress. It was filled with royal palaces, treasury buildings, and religious structures. The city was naturally defensible, positioned on a terrace. However, during the height of the Persian Empire, there was no serious force left for resistance. For you, the conquest of Persepolis carried meanings much deeper than just capturing a city. Pan-Hellenic revenge. The destruction of Persepolis was seen as revenge for the burning of Athens and the looting of Greek temples during the Persian Wars. This meant the fulfillment of the promise made to the Hellenic League. Symbolic end of the Persian Empire. The destruction of Persepolis, the heart of Persian pride and legitimacy, was the symbol of the end of the Achaemenid Empire not only militarily but also culturally and spiritually. Treasures. The city housed the immense treasures accumulated by Darius and previous Persian kings. These treasures were beyond the needs of financing your campaigns. The sack and burning of Persepolis. When you reached Persepolis with your army, the city's people offered no resistance and opened the gates. However, unlike in Babylon and Susa, a harsher attitude was exhibited towards the city this time. Sack. The city was ruthlessly sacked by your soldiers. The wealth accumulated by the Persian Empire over centuries, gold statues, precious jewels, works of art, and immense treasures, were captured. The amount of this booty was so great that legend says thousands of camels and mules were needed to transport it. Massacre and destruction. Part of the city's population was massacred, some were sold into slavery. Royal palaces and other important structures were destroyed or damaged. The burning of Persepolis, perhaps the most dramatic and symbolic event, was the setting of Persepolis on fire. Historians have different views on this event. Revenge. According to the most widely accepted view, this act was revenge for what the Persians had done to Greece. It is also narrated that it was incited during one of your banquets by an Athenian hetaira, aristocratic courtesan, named Thais. Political message. It was a strong political message announcing to the whole world that the Persian Empire had irreversibly ended and a new order was being established. An accident or loss of control. Some sources suggest that a combination of alcohol and the heat led to the fire starting accidentally or getting out of control. Among the palaces burned were those of Xerxes and Darius. Persepolis going up in flames became the symbol of the final end of the Achaemenid Empire in antiquity. This destruction highlighted not only your military genius but also your capacity for revenge and ruthlessness. Now, the heart of the Persian Empire was gone, and you rose as an unchallenged power on the world stage. Your gaze had now turned to sweeping up the last remnants of the empire and advancing deeper into Asia. You burned and destroyed Persepolis. You tore out the heart of the Persian Empire. But you knew that the great King Darius was still alive, and his very existence was a symbol of Persian resistance. You know what they say, the enemy of my enemy is my friend. But for you, even Darius's enemies were not friends. They were merely rivals. Your goal was to end his flight and root out Persian resistance entirely. This was not just a pursuit. It was intended to be the de facto end of a colossal empire and the sealing of your undisputed supremacy. After the burning of Persepolis, although the fate of the Persian Empire was sealed, the great King Darius was still alive, fleeing eastward with the remnants of his army. For you, capturing or neutralizing Darius was vital to completely ending Persian resistance and sweeping up the empire's last territories. As long as he lived, he would remain a symbol of hope for the Persians. The pursuit of Darius. In early 330 BC, you left Persepolis with your army and set off in pursuit of Darius. This chase took place across the vast and difficult geography of Mesopotamia and the Persian Empire's eastern provinces, sometimes at a very rapid and exhausting pace. Darius constantly changed location, trying to evade you with the remnants of his troops. Harsh conditions. During the pursuit, your army faced supply difficulties and logistical problems. However, thanks to your military genius and your soldiers' endurance, you managed to overcome all these obstacles. Intelligence and speed. You constantly gathered information about Darius's movements and advanced your army with incredible speed. It is said you sometimes covered over 60 kilometers a day. Your aim was to capture Darius and show the entire world that the Persian Empire was leaderless. Bessus's betrayal and Darius's death. As Darius continued his flight, he was betrayed by a group of Persian nobles led by the satrap of Bactria, Bessus. Bessus and his followers had despaired in the face of your advance. Perhaps they believed they could stop you or at least save their own lives. They considered holding Darius hostage for negotiations. They may have even planned to surrender him to you. However, you wanted to capture Darius with your own hands. When you learned of Bessus's betrayal, you set off after Bessus and Darius with incredible speed and a small part of your army. As you approached them, Bessus and his men abandoned Darius. You found Darius mortally wounded, abandoned in a cart, in July 330 BC. According to some sources, Bessus, realizing you were approaching, killed Darius himself. The significance of Darius's death. Darius III's death was not just the death of a ruler for the Persian Empire, it was the official and de facto end of the Achaemenid Empire. This event was the most important indicator of the completion of your conquests. Transfer of legitimacy. With Darius's death, the throne of the Persian Empire was officially vacant. By avenging Darius and later capturing and ruthlessly executing Bessus, you declared yourself the legitimate heir to the Persian Empire and the new great king. This was an important step in having your authority accepted by both Hellenic and Persian subjects. End of resistance. Darius's absence ended organized resistance against you by the Persian nobility and satraps. There was no longer any hope of reviving the Persian Empire. Beginning of a new era. The pursuit and death of Darius were another demonstration of your military genius and ruthless determination. You completely subdued the Persian Empire and became the undisputed lord of Asia. However, the conqueror's road was not yet finished. Your gaze was now turned towards the furthest eastern reaches of the empire, even to the end of the world. The Central Asian campaigns, the tough struggles in Sogdiana and Bactria. You brought the great King Darius to his knees. You burned Persepolis. Now the heart of the Persian Empire was in your hands, but for you, there was no stopping. You know what they say, the spirit of a conqueror does not rest. So you advanced deeper into Asia, towards the lands of Sogdiana and Bactria, home to warrior peoples along the ancient Silk Road. These campaigns would not be passed with easy victories. A tough resistance, difficult geography, and one of your greatest tests awaited you. After largely capturing the Persian Empire and the end of Darius, your leadership was now unquestioned. However, the empire's eastern provinces, particularly Sogdiana, parts of Uzbekistan and Tajikistan, and Bactria, parts of Afghanistan and Tajikistan, were still not fully under control. This region was known for its mountainous terrain, harsh climate, and warlike local peoples. The Persian satrap and Darius's killer, Bessus, had declared himself great king here and continued resistance against you. For you, the conquest of these regions was vital both to punish Bessus and to secure the eastern borders of your empire. Difficult geography and guerrilla warfare. The Central Asian campaigns, lasting from 329 BC to 327 BC, were recorded as the toughest phase of your military career. These campaigns were nothing like the wars in Greece or Anatolia. Mountainous and arid terrain, your army had to advance through difficult terrain filled with massive mountain passes, wide valleys, and steppes. Supply lines were long, and logistical difficulties were great. Water scarcity tested your army's endurance. Guerrilla tactics, local tribes and warriors in the region avoided direct pitched battles, employing guerrilla tactics. They attacked in small groups, set ambushes, and wore down your army using the advantages of the mountainous terrain. This was very different from the large pitched battles you were accustomed to. Harsh conditions, the region's severe winters made the campaign even more difficult. Freezing cold and snowstorms tested the morale and physical strength of the soldiers. Main struggles and strategies. Capture and punishment of Bessus. Your first goal was to capture Bessus, who had betrayed Darius. After a long pursuit, Bessus was captured and executed with one of history's most terrible punishments. This showed that you were the legitimate heir to the Persian Empire and that you never forgave betrayal. Resistance in Sogdiana, under the leadership of charismatic leaders like Spidamenes, put up fierce resistance against you. Spidamenes, especially with his light cavalry and guerrilla tactics, inflicted heavy losses on your army. To break this resistance, you had to employ new tactics, spread out your forces, surround the enemy, and cut their supply lines. Rock fortress battles. The capture of fortresses built on nearly inaccessible rocky cliffs was a test of your engineering genius and your soldiers' determination. You proved your military genius once again by capturing seemingly impregnable fortresses like the Sogdian Rock. These fortresses were usually captured with the help of mountain climbers or forced into surrender by starvation. Accommodation with locals. To completely break the resistance, you didn't just use military force. You also tried to reach an accommodation with the local people. Alliances were made with some leaders, and policies of cultural integration were pursued. After about 2.5 years of these tough struggles, you managed to gain complete control over Sogdiana and Bactria. These campaigns once again proved your military genius, your soldiers' resilience, and your leadership qualities. However, they also had a very wearing effect on your army. One of the most important outcomes of these campaigns was your marriage to Roxana, a Bactrian noblewoman. This marriage was not just a personal event, it was an important step symbolizing the cultural and political integration with the Eastern peoples you had conquered. However, this step would cause discomfort, even open opposition, among your Macedonian commanders. In the eyes of the Western leaders, you were leaning too far towards the East. After the exhausting struggles and victories of the Central Asian campaigns, in 327 BC, you married Roxana, the daughter of the Bactrian nobleman Oxyartes, in modern-day Afghanistan and Tajikistan. This marriage was not just a personal union but also an important part of your unification policy and cultural integration vision. Reasons for the marriage and vision of cultural integration. This marriage served several important purposes. Political unity and regional control. Central Asia was a region filled with rebellious and warlike tribes, difficult to control. Roxana came from a powerful Persian Sogdian lineage. Your marriage aimed to strengthen ties with the increasingly important local nobility and ensure regional stability. This marriage was an effective diplomatic tool to break resistance and consolidate the conquered lands. Vision of uniting East and West/Hellenization. One of your greatest goals was not only to militarily conquer the Persian Empire but also to create a new Hellenistic civilization merging Hellenic and Eastern cultures. Your marriage to Roxana was a symbolic and practical step in this cultural fusion. Thus, you tried to integrate the peoples you conquered into your new empire, rather than sending a message of alienation. Legitimacy and acceptance. By establishing marital ties with the old Persian aristocracy, you aim to increase your legitimacy as the ruler of Persian lands. This would strengthen the loyalty of the local Persian and Eastern peoples towards you. Macedonian opposition and reactions. However, your marriage to Roxana and your Persianizing policies in general caused serious opposition and discomfort among your army, especially the Macedonian commanders. Macedonians saw themselves as the superior race of the Hellenic world and considered the Persians barbarians. Your adoption of Eastern customs and granting important positions to Persian nobles were seen by your own military leaders as signs of corruption. Personal dress and ceremonies. Your adoption of Persian clothing and your attempt to introduce proskynesis, the Persian custom of bowing or prostrating before the king, caused great outrage among the Macedonians. For them, this was a slavish behavior and contrary to free Macedonian tradition. Marriage to Eastern women. Your marriage to Roxana was met with surprise and anger among the Macedonian commanders. They could not accept their king marrying a woman from a conquered people instead of a Macedonian wife. Especially the Susa weddings, where you encouraged your commanders to marry Eastern women, would further increase this tension. Macedonian sense of merit. The Macedonian army had conquered the Persian Empire with their own blood and sacrifice. After this victory, treating the conquered peoples so equally damaged the Macedonian sense of reward. Conspiracies and assassinations. Macedonian opposition was not limited to verbal criticism. Some of your military commanders, like Philotas and Parmenion, were accused of conspiring against your policies. This situation led you to ruthlessly punish some old and loyal Macedonian commanders, bringing palace tensions to a peak. Your marriage to Roxana was for you a symbol of both a political move and a cultural vision. However, this marriage and your Persianizing policies, while aiming to bridge the gap between the empire's two main groups, Macedonians and Eastern peoples, also caused a deep rift within the Macedonian elite. This situation would lay the groundwork for events that would later threaten even your life. After the tough struggles in Central Asia and your marriage to Roxana, by 327 BC, you had secured the eastern borders of your empire. However, your insatiable desire for conquest and your ideal of world domination directed you towards a new and much more distant target: your expedition to India. This campaign would be both a physical and personal trial. Motivations for the Indian expedition. World domination ideal. According to ancient Greek and Persian geography, India represented the eastern borders of the known world. Conquering it all was the final step in your vision of reaching the ocean river, the world-encircling ocean, and dominating the entire known world. Wealth and resources. India was famous for legendary resources like gold, precious stones, spices, and ivory. These riches would fill your empire's treasury and boost your soldiers' morale. Geographic curiosity and exploration. Along with the education you received from Aristotle, you had a great curiosity for exploring new geographies and advancing into the unknown. India was both a military target and a geographic exploration. Prestige and fame. Reaching and conquering lands so far that no one in history had reached would immortalize your fame. Expedition preparations. The Indian expedition was one of the largest and most complex logistical operations ever undertaken, as long as your performance. The difficult geography, new enemies, and long supply lines required meticulous planning. Massive army and experience. Your army consisted of extremely experienced and disciplined Macedonian phalanxes, cavalry, and Greek allies with countless battle histories. It was also reinforced with troops from the conquered peoples of Central Asia and remnants of Persian units. Logistics and supply lines. Logistics were critical due to the army's size and the difficulty of the geography to be traversed: mountains, deserts, rivers. Food, water, and equipment had to be regularly supplied. Supply depots were established along the route. Bridges and crossings. Bridge builders and engineers were prepared for crossings over the Indus and other great rivers. Particularly long and difficult efforts were made to cross the Hindu Kush mountains. Political and propaganda preparations. You analyzed the rivalries among the local kingdoms in India. Alliances began to be formed with some Indian kings, while you tried to subdue others with threats. In late 327 BC, you set out from Bactria with your army and began advancing towards the Hindu Kush mountains. These mountain passes were the first major obstacle for your army. The freezing cold and snow of winter slowed the advance. However, you were determined to advance despite all difficulties. After crossing the mountains, you reached the Indus River basin. Here, you would encounter war elephants like never before and prepare for one of the greatest pitched battles of your career. The Indian expedition was for you not just a conquest but also a test of personal limits and a desire to reach the ends of the earth. This journey would once again reveal both your military genius and your superhuman determination. You set out for India, crossing the Hindu Kush. But you knew these lands would not surrender to you easily. You know what they say, every lion has its teeth. Well, the lion India would put before you was King Porus, with his massive army and war elephants. In 326 BC, at the banks of the Hydaspes River, Jhelum, what awaited you was not just an army but also the challenge of gigantic elephants you had never faced before. But it wasn't just a battle, it was a war where your military genius and strategies would reach their peak. After crossing the Indus River in India, you began to encounter the local kingdoms of the Punjab region. The strongest among these and the one that showed the fiercest resistance was the kingdom ruled by King Porus. Porus was famous not only for his military ability but also for the massive war elephants he possessed. Your army had never before faced such an organized and numerous elephant force, and this situation naturally created fear among your soldiers. In May 326 BC, you reached the banks of the Hydaspes River with your army. The river was swollen from the monsoon season, its current swift, and on the opposite bank, King Porus's army awaited you. Porus's army consisted of approximately 30,000 infantry, 4,000 cavalry, 300 chariots, and most importantly, between 85 and 200 massive war elephants. The elephants were like living tanks. They carried archers and spearmen on their backs and could create great destruction in enemy ranks. Alexander's strategy and cunning, Porus's army was in a strong defensive position, and a direct crossing seemed impossible. It would mean a direct assault on superior forces. Your military genius spoke again, and you developed a complex strategy to surprise the enemy and neutralize their superior strength. Deception and misdirection, you made it seem as if your soldiers were preparing for a river crossing by the main camp. You lit torches and made noise at different points along the river at night, distracting Porus. Porus began trying to follow every movement, tiring out his troops with false crossing attempts. Secret crossing, after several nights of these diversions, you led a significant part of your army about 27 kilometers upstream from the main camp to a hidden crossing point screened by a wooded area and a bend in the river. Under the cover of a violent storm, your infantry and cavalry managed to cross the river undetected. Two-front battle, after crossing the river, one part of your army headed towards Porus's main camp. With the other part, you engaged and held Porus's attention. When Porus realized your unexpected crossing, he sent a part of his forces against you. However, these troops were easily repulsed. The course of the battle and the fight against elephants, the main battle took place between your army and Porus's main force. Porus positioned his elephants at the front of his army, and they charged towards the Macedonian phalanx. The elephants' initial charge was devastating. It caused great fear and disruption among the Macedonian soldiers. However, you were prepared for this situation. Infantry and spear tactics, you ordered the phalanx soldiers not to try to kill the elephants directly but to harass them, jab at them with their long sarissas, and focus on the elephants' riders. The long sarissas became effective defensive tools against the elephants. Cavalry maneuvers, you used your cavalry to encircle the elephants, isolating them, and enabling your archers to rain a heavy arrow storm on the elephants and the warriors on them. Panic of the elephants. Wounded and harassed elephants panicked and turned back, trampling their own ranks, causing chaos in Porus's army. Targeting weak points. The elephants' sensitive points like their trunks, eyes, and feet were targeted. You also aimed to neutralize their handlers, the mahouts. Outcome and consequences. The Battle of the Hydaspes is also called a Pyrrhic victory for you because you suffered very heavy losses. However, it was a clear strategic victory. Porus's army was completely dispersed, and he himself was captured. The great respect you showed to Porus demonstrated your leadership qualities and your power to show mercy even to enemies. Impressed by Porus's courage, you reinstated him as ruler and even expanded his territories. Military prestige. The battle once again proved your military genius by showing how you could deal with a new and frightening threat like war elephants. The road to India opened. The Hydaspes victory opened the way for further advance into the interior of India. However, this battle would also push the limits of your army's endurance. After this battle, soldiers began to openly express that they did not want to advance any further. The Battle of Hydaspes went down in history as one of your great military victories. In this battle, it was not just the conquest of a kingdom but also an indicator of your superior ability in leadership, strategy, and courage. However, the cost of this victory would be heavy and would lead to your army's mutiny. Despite the great victory at the Battle of Hydaspes, the Indian campaign had made the burden on your army unbearable. You aimed to advance further east towards the Ganges River to reach the Oceanus River, the ocean, and complete your conquests to the end of the known world. However, the soldiers were tired of this endless campaign, exhausted, and burning with homesickness. Causes of the soldiers' mutiny. Endless campaigns and fatigue. You had been on almost 10 years of non-stop campaigns. Thousands of kilometers had been covered from Macedonia to India, countless battles fought. The soldiers were physically and mentally exhausted. Excessive losses. Every battle, siege, desert, or mountain crossing caused losses in the army. The soldiers had lost their comrades and families and wanted to return home. Climate and geography. India's hot and humid climate, monsoon rains, unknown diseases, and difficult forested terrain created great difficulties for Macedonian and Greek soldiers. Rumors of even larger and more difficult rivers like the Ganges ahead increased their demoralization. Fear of the unknown. Rumors spread about India having much larger and more powerful kingdoms, like the Nanda Empire. The soldiers were afraid of continuing to the end of the world and encountering unknown dangers. Homesickness and separation. Most of your soldiers had been away from their families for many years. Even if they had riches, that was no longer their priority. All they wanted was to return home. Mutiny at the Hyphasis River. When the army reached the banks of the Hyphasis River, Bios River, you announced your intention to advance further east. At this point, all this accumulated discontent erupted. The soldiers, led by General Cenas, flatly refused to go any further. They wanted to return to Macedonia. You were shocked and angered by this situation. You tried to persuade the soldiers with long and fiery speeches, reminding them of past victories, the booty to be gained, and your vision of world conquest. You even sulked in your tent for 3 days, showing you would back down. However, the soldiers remained unmoved. The forced decision to turn back. After 3 days, you understood the soldiers' determination and the seriousness of the mutiny. You realized the army could not be forced to advance further. This was one of the most difficult decisions of your career. Despite your desire for conquest, you had to bow to the will of the army. You gave the order to turn back at the Hyphasis River. This event was the only major act of disobedience against your absolute will and stood as a bitter sign of defeat for you, who had never lost a battle, your accumulated success, and your leadership qualities. Your soldiers' mutiny determined the geographical limit of your conquests. Now, you would begin the journey back westward. After the mutiny of the soldiers in India, you gave up advancing further east. Now before you lay a long and difficult return journey to your empire's capital, Babylon. For this return journey, different options existed. While a large part of the army, especially the veterans and heavy equipment, was sent by sea under the command of Nearchus towards the Persian Gulf, you chose a more difficult and unknown land route with the main army, the Gadrosian Desert, modern-day Makran in Balochistan, Pakistan, and Sistan-Balochistan, Iran. The reasons for choosing this desert route are not entirely clear. Some historians suggest you underestimated the dangers of the sea route, others say you wanted to surpass the Persians who could not cross this region or to break local resistance in a new conquest effort. Whatever the reason, the crossing of Gidrosha would be one of the most merciless struggles of your career. Scorching heat and thirst, Gidrosha was an extremely arid desert known for scorching temperatures and sandstorms. Water sources were extremely scarce and often salty. The army's greatest enemy was thirst. Many soldiers and animals died of dehydration. Wells were found empty, those with water were quickly exhausted. Giant sand dunes and loss of direction, the endless sand dunes of the desert made advancement difficult and navigation nearly impossible. Sandstorms reduced visibility to zero, causing soldiers and baggage to get lost. This led to the dispersion of the army and more losses. Lack of supplies, under the desert conditions, providing adequate food and water supplies was almost impossible. Famine set in. Soldiers became desperate for food and water. This situation led to discipline problems and moral breakdown in the army. Diseases and snakes, various pathogens and snakes seen in the desert also caused losses in the army. The end of the journey and tragic losses, this hellish journey, lasting about 60 days, inflicted merciless suffering on your army. Sources state that thousands of soldiers, horses, and pack animals perished in this desert crossing. According to some estimates, over a quarter of the army lost their lives in Gidrosha. The survivors were physically and mentally exhausted, in a wretched state. Despite all difficulties, you managed to cross the desert with your soldiers. Your leadership qualities continued to inspire your soldiers even in this extreme test. The survivors' accounts show that the Gadrosian crossing was an achievement greater than all your conquests. It was a victory against nature itself. After emerging from the Gadrosian desert, you and your army reached Carmania, modern-day Kerman province, Iran. Here, you reunited with the fleet under Nearchus's command. The mercilessness of Gidrosha was the greatest struggle and a military lesson following the peak of your conquests. This journey once again proved your superhuman determination and strength. However, it also showed how fragile even a conqueror could be against the power of nature. Now your path was towards the heart of your empire, Babylon. You emerged from the merciless Gadrosian desert. Your army was worn but alive. You know what they say, there's no place like home. Well, you too were returning to your empire's center, to Babylon, after years of conquests. This wasn't just reaching a destination. It was also time to take stock of the victories won, mourn the losses, and plan massive future endeavors. After escaping the hell of the Gadrosian desert, You return to the capital of your empire, Babylon, with great fanfare and magnificent ceremonies in 324 BC. 10 years of non-stop conquests had taken you from Macedonia to the farthest corners of Asia. Your return to Babylon was not just the end of a journey but also a pause point in your conquests and a moment to plan the future. Account of conquests and emerging problems. In Babylon, you had the opportunity to evaluate the vast empire you ruled and the sustainability of your gains. Military and administrative reorganization. The long campaigns had worn down your army. You carried out new recruitments. You reorganized your units and reviewed your commanders. Especially the mutiny in India and the losses in Gidrotia had affected your army's morale and discipline. During this period, some governors, satraps, and generals who were corrupt or had betrayed you were punished. This was a way to reassert your authority. Continuation of Macedonian-Persian fusion strategy. You continued your strategy of blending Macedonian and Persian, Eastern and Western cultures. At the Susa weddings, you married thousands of Macedonian soldiers and commanders to Persian women. You yourself married Statira, Darius's daughter, becoming a Persian son-in-law for the second time after Roxana. This marriage strengthened these bonds. These practices continued to create unease among your Macedonian commanders, as you observed. New conquests and visions. At the same time, your insatiable desire for conquest was planning new massive campaigns. Arabian expedition. Your aim was to secure the southern borders of the Persian Empire, control the Persian Gulf, and completely dominate the sea trade routes between the Indian Ocean and the Mediterranean. You ordered new ships built and carried out reconnaissance for this campaign. Rumors of a Western Mediterranean turn. Some historians claim that after the Arabian expedition, your next target was the Western Mediterranean geographies like North Africa, Italy, and Spain. This was part of your vision of conquering the entire known world. Consolidation of the empire. Alongside new conquests, you aimed to further strengthen the administration of the existing empire. You planned more roads, ports, and city construction projects. Naval power. Your experience with naval campaigns in India and maritime activities in Babylon helped you understand the importance of naval power. You ordered new fleets built to both control trade routes and prepare for naval expeditions. Your return to Babylon was the last great period of activity for you as both a conqueror and a statesman. The massive plans you had for the future showed your endless ambition and vision. However, the lifespan fate had allotted you would not allow these grand plans to be implemented. Babylon was not only where you took stock of your victories but also the final stop where you marched towards death. As Alexander the Great, one of your most important visions after subduing the Persian Empire was to unite the vast lands you conquered under a single identity and create a new civilization by blending Hellenic, Greek, culture with Eastern, Persian, Egyptian, Mesopotamian cultures. This process is called Hellenization, and your policies were steps taken to ensure this cultural synthesis. Your aim was not only to be a conqueror but also to create a common identity and unity among the peoples you conquered. Hellenization policies, key elements. The Susa weddings. This was one of the most concrete and symbolic steps of your vision. Following your return to Babylon in 324 BC, in Susa, you orchestrated great mass weddings where over 80 high-ranking Macedonian commanders, including yourself, and about 10,000 Macedonian soldiers married Persian and other Eastern noblewomen. You yourself married Statira, Darius's daughter, strengthening this fusion. This was not just a peaceful joke but an attempt to create a new mixed class and unite the empire's two main pillars, West and East, through blood ties, integration of Macedonians and Persians into the army. You increasingly included Persians and other Eastern peoples in the command staff and among the soldiers. You gave important military and administrative positions to Persian nobles. You even formed a new infantry unit of 30,000 Iranian youths and gave them Macedonian-style military training. While this created unease among Macedonian soldiers, it served the purpose of increasing the empire's military power and utilizing diversity. City founding and spreading Hellenic culture. In strategic locations across the conquered lands, you founded cities collectively named Alexandria, like Alexandria in Egypt, Alexandria in Nicosia. These cities became centers where Hellenic culture, architecture, language, and lifestyles spread. Theaters, gymnasiums, and libraries were built in these cities, and Greek colonists were settled. Thus, you created a new synthesis through the interaction of Hellenic and local cultures. Common language and administrative structure. In all the lands you conquered, Koine Greek, Common Greek, was promoted as the official lingua franca. This facilitated communication between different regions of the empire and served as a cultural bridge. While preserving the Persian satrapy system, you tried to create a more integrated administrative structure by adding Hellenic and Macedonian elements to it. Religious and cultural respect. You showed great respect to the religions and traditions of the local peoples you conquered. Your acceptance of the pharaoh title in Egypt, offering sacrifices to local gods in Babylon, and adopting Persian ceremonies were important parts of these policies. This strengthened the local people's loyalty to you and prevented revolts. Opposition and criticism. Your Hellenization vision met with serious resistance, especially among your Macedonian commanders and soldiers. They saw such integration with the Persians as corruption, thinking they were losing their own Macedonian superiority. Your adoption of Persian court customs like proskynesis, bowing before the king, was a source of great humiliation for Macedonian nobles. This opposition led to tensions culminating in the execution of some commanders like Philotas and Parmenion. Despite all these difficulties, your vision of blending East and West continued even after you. Although the empire you founded fragmented, a new period known as the Hellenistic Age began. In this period, Greek culture spread to the Middle East, Egypt, and India, blending with local cultures, and great developments occurred in science, art, and philosophy. Your Hellenization policies left a lasting legacy that shaped cultural interaction between East and West for thousands of years, not just a conqueror's dream. You built a vast empire. The world was brought to its knees. But you know, sometimes a conqueror's greatest battles are fought with the closest people, within the walls of his own palace. You know what they say, the peak is lonely. Well, you too felt this loneliness deeply amid the endless intrigues and internal strife revolving around your throne. Even your most trusted commanders, even those from your own family, had their eyes on your throne. But it wasn't just a power struggle. It was also a bitter test of friendship, loyalty, and ambition. As Alexander the Great, as you reached the peak of your conquests, external enemies were gradually replaced by internal enemies. While you were ruling a vast empire on one hand, on the other, you had to struggle with intrigues within your own court, family conflicts, and the ambitions of your commanders. This situation deepened your personal loneliness while sowing the seeds of some events that would threaten the future of the empire. Causes of internal strife and intrigues. Eastern and Western policies/Hellenization, your adoption of Persian culture, giving important duties to Persian nobles, and marrying Eastern women had created great unrest, especially among your Macedonian commanders and soldiers. They saw such integration with conquered peoples as corruption and thought their own Macedonian superiority was in danger. This cultural conflict was one of the main sources of tension at court. personal ambitions and power struggle. With the empire's power, ambitions for power and gaining more wealth increased among the commanders. Each dreamed of taking the empire's helm after your death or at least seizing important parts of it. This situation led to secret conspiracies and actions against each other. Alexander's character and paranoia. Some historians note that the stress from long campaigns, alcohol consumption, and increasing authoritarianism showed paranoid tendencies in you. Your harsh reactions to even the smallest criticism and questioning of loyalty created fear and hidden opposition among the commanders. Resentment towards endless campaigns. Your endless desire for conquest, especially during the Indian campaign, had caused the soldiers' mutiny. In this situation, some commanders began to question your judgment and tried to find ways to stop you. Most important intrigues and assassination attempts. The Philotas and Parmenion affair. 330 BC. Philotas, the son of Parmenion, one of the most experienced and loyal generals inherited from your father, was accused of being involved in a conspiracy against you. He was tortured, confessed, under duress, and executed. Later, suspicion of involvement in the conspiracy also fell on Parmenion, an important commander of the army and Philotas's father, who was also executed. This event created great shock and fear among the Macedonian aristocracy. The murder of Clitus the Black, 328 BC. Clitus the Black, who had saved your life, been your companion for many years, and was an old friend of your father, sharply criticized your Persianizing policies and deification claims during a feast while heavily intoxicated. In a rage, you killed him personally. This event showed your increasing authoritarianism and uncontrollable outbursts of anger. Conspiracies at court. Conspiracies were hatched and even assassination attempts made against you by young nobles or royal pages like Pausanias. Such plots were ruthlessly suppressed, and the culprits severely punished. These intrigues and internal conflicts showed that your empire was threatened from within as much as from outside. The struggle for the power vacuum after you had already begun. Your resilience and ruthless determination in the face of these events strengthened your authority on one hand but narrowed the circle of loyalty around you, making you even more isolated. The fate of a great conqueror was written not only on battlefields but also in the dark corridors of his own palace. As Alexander the Great, your life was filled with constant wars, conquests, and victories. But on this epic journey, what kept you standing, who was by your side even in the most difficult moments, was your closest friend since childhood and your most trusted commander, Hephaestion. The bond between you was more than an ordinary friendship, it was based on deep love and mutual understanding. Hephaestion was not only a general to you but also your confidant, your foster brother, and virtually your second self. In the autumn of 324 BC, you were in Ecbatana, the center of the former Persian Empire, modern-day Hamadan, Iran. You were resting with the army, making future plans. Right in this relatively calm period, one of the most devastating events of your life occurred. Hephaestion, probably from some kind of feverish illness or, according to some sources, typhoid or an illness arising from excessive eating and drinking, suddenly lost his life. He was only 32 years old. Alexander's grief and reaction. Hephaestion's death was an indescribable pain and shock for you. This loss was unlike any military defeat you had faced. As a powerful conqueror, you usually kept your emotions hidden, but you were completely overwhelmed by the grief of this loss. Historical sources describe your reactions to Hephaestion's death as follows. Excessive mourning and grief. You did not eat or drink for days, mourned, wrapped yourself in your cloak, cut your hair, and wept by his body. This was a deep emotional breakdown unexpected from a great man like you. Extreme reactions. Your grief was so great that, according to some sources, you crucified some doctors in the vicinity for failing to heal Hephaestion. Even some individuals or peoples alleged to have rejoiced at his death were punished. This shows your uncontrolled anger and reaction to pain. Magnificent ceremonies. Hephaestion was given one of the most magnificent funerals in history. A massive pyre and funeral procession were prepared for him in Babylon. Enormous amounts of money were spent on the ceremonies. This showed your devotion to him. Deification efforts. You even demanded divine honors for him and made mourning for him compulsory. This was an effort to glorify his memory and alleviate the pain of the loss. Effects of the death and reflections on the empire. Hephaestion's death not only affected you personally but also had indirect effects on the empire's future. Impact on leadership. This loss affected your mood and perhaps your decision-making processes. Some historians suggest that after Hephaestion's death, you became more pessimistic and angry, paving the way for some ruthless actions in the later period. Vacuum in the empire. Hephaestion was your most trusted person in both military and administrative fields. His death created an important void in your governance and increased rivalry among other commanders. Personal health. This deep grief and stress may have further worsened your already worn-out system. Indeed, about 8 months after Hephaestion's death, you too would pass away. Hephaestion's death was an event showing that Alexander the Great, besides being a ruthless conqueror, had deep human relationships and emotions. This loss shook you deeply and was part of the chain of dramatic events that determined the empire's fate after your death. As Alexander the Great, your unprecedented victories, the vast lands you conquered, and your personal charisma caused a veritable god-king cult to form around you. This situation was a result of both your personal beliefs and rulership style and the policies you implemented to govern your empire. However, these deification claims faced great debate and opposition, especially among your Macedonian army and commanders. Origins and development of deification claims. Son of Ammonius in Egypt. After conquering Egypt in 332 BC, you visited the famous temple of Ammonius at the Siwa oasis. The priests addressing you as the son of Ammonius reinforced your belief in having a divine origin. This event later formed the basis of your god-king image. For Egyptians, pharaohs were considered gods, so this was an appropriate acceptance. Adoption of Persian palace customs. Proskynesis. After conquering the Persian Empire, you began to adopt Persian court customs. Particularly, you wanted to impose the custom called proskynesis, bowing or prostrating before the king, on your Macedonian commanders and soldiers as well. While for Persians this was an expression of respect, for free Macedonians and Greeks, this was a behavior befitting only gods or slaves and was a source of great humiliation. Personal belief and power intoxication. Some historians think you may have come to believe you were truly a god or at least a divine mission. The victories won and absolute power gained may have reinforced this belief. Political strategy. The vastness of the empire and the need to hold different cultures together may have made attributing a divine status to you politically beneficial. Being a god-king could maintain the loyalty and legitimacy of peoples in different regions of the empire towards you. Macedonian reactions and opposition. Your deification claims and Persianizing policies caused deep reaction and opposition among the possible layers of your army, the Macedonians. Macedonians saw you as a king, a commander, and a leader, but never as a god. This situation increased tension between you and led to some tragic events. The proskynesis debate. In 327 BC in Bactria, when you tried to implement proskynesis, many Macedonian commanders, primarily the historian Callisthenes, strongly opposed it. Callisthenes argued that this practice was contrary to Macedonian freedom and traditions. This event strained your relationship with Callisthenes and led to Callisthenes later being accused of involvement in a conspiracy and dying. The murder of Clitus the Black. In the event that occurred in 328 BC, the drunk Clitus the Black, a veteran commander who had saved your life, harshly criticized your Persianizing and deification situation. In an outburst of anger, you killed Clitus personally. This event shows how deep the rift between you and the Macedonians had become. Conspiracies. These deification claims also became a factor in conspiracies against you. These conspiracies were both a threat to you and a pressure element causing you to take harsh measures against trusted people. Your deification claims and adoption of Eastern customs created a deep chasm between you and your closest circle, in addition to the fatigue of the army from long campaigns. As Alexander, you had a unique status walking that fine line between men and gods. You returned to Babylon. You tried to organize your empire's administration. You even struggled with deification rumors. But for you, there was no such thing as stopping. You know what they say, the spirit of a conqueror does not rest, it always wants more. So you set your sights on the southern hot regions and the land of the unknown, the Arabian Peninsula. This wasn't just about conquering new lands. It was also about securing your empire's southern borders, controlling trade routes, and perhaps showing the world one last time what a great conqueror you were. The final days in Babylon and mysterious death. 323 BC. In the spring of 323 BC, in Babylon, you were actively planning the Arabian expedition and other grand projects. However, your health began to deteriorate rapidly. Onset of the illness. After a banquet, you developed a high fever. You were shivering and losing strength. Doctors struggled to cure you with the limited medical knowledge of the time. However, they were unsuccessful. Worsening condition. As your condition worsened, great anxiety arose among the army and commanders. The illness of a leader like you plunged the entire empire into uncertainty about the future. Last days and alleged will. As you grew weaker, despite your physical strength failing, your mind was still working. Commanders flocked to your tent to see you. Even soldiers gathered in front of your tent to see you one last time. In your final moments, when commanders asked you to whom you left the empire, the famous answer is recounted: to the strongest, Kroteroi, to the strongest, or to the best among you. Whether this was a real choice or merely an acknowledgement of the natural conditions of power and competition that would follow is still debated. However, these words would be a kind of starting signal for the future wars of your successors. Your final days in Babylon contained all your paradoxes. On one hand, endless desire for conquest, on the other, the weakness of mortality, on one hand, absolute authority, on the other, mortal vulnerability. In June 323 BC, you passed away in the capital of your empire, Babylon, at only 32 years old, at the height of your power. Although the exact cause is still debated, whether malaria, typhoid, or excessive alcohol consumption, your death was an unexpected and devastating end both for you and the vast world you had built. The fact that you were making conquest plans until the last years of your life showed your endless ambition and vision. Events after your death. Shock and power vacuum. Your death created great shock and a power vacuum in the empire. Because you left no clear heir. Your empire, based on your personal charisma and absolute power, would quickly enter the path of fragmentation in your absence. The riddle of the will, the famous answer to the strongest, was more a declaration of the inevitable throne wars among your generals than a will. Fragmentation of the empire, the wars of the Diadochi. After your death, your most trusted generals and commanders, known as the Diadochi, successors, like Ptolemy, Seleucus, Antigonus, Cassander, Lysimachus, engaged in a fierce struggle to divide the empire's lands among themselves. These bloody wars, lasting about 40 years, completely fragmented the unified empire you had built. In their place, large Hellenistic kingdoms were established, the Ptolemaic dynasty in Egypt, the Seleucid Empire in the Near East, and the Antigonid dynasty in Macedonia. Cancellation of the Arabian expedition. The Arabian expedition, your last grand and ambitious goal, was cancelled with your death. The army withdrew, and massive preparations came to nothing. The fate of your body. There was great contention over your body. Although Perdiccas planned to take it to Macedonia, it was eventually seized by Ptolemy and taken to Egypt, Alexandria, where it was interred. This shows how great your power and symbolism remained even after your death. The legacy of Alexander the Great. Although you did not leave a unified empire with your death, the legacy you left behind deeply influenced the course of history and opened the doors to a new era. The Hellenistic Age. Your most important legacy was the beginning of the Hellenistic Age. Thanks to your conquests, Greek culture, language, and thought spread to the Middle East, Egypt, and India. This situation blended with local cultures, leading to great developments in science, art, and philosophy, ushering in a cosmopolitan era. Alexandria was the brightest example of this cultural synthesis. Military strategy. Your effective use of the phalanx formation, cavalry tactics, and siege techniques were taught as lessons in military schools for centuries. You are considered one of history's greatest commanders, never losing a major pitched battle. Geographic expansion and knowledge. Your campaigns revealed vast geographies and different cultures unknown to the West until then, contributing greatly to geographic and scientific knowledge. Trade routes. Your conquests revitalized trade on the Silk Road and accelerated economic relations between East and West. The death of Alexander the Great, although you did not leave a unified empire, immortalized you as a figure who changed the course of world processes, triggered the interaction of cultures, and advanced military strategy. Your story will continue to be remembered as an epic full of lessons showing the continuity of power, the price of ambition, and the helplessness of even the greatest conqueror in the face of time and fate. In 323 BC, with your death at the height of your empire in Babylon, the vast empire based on your genius and personal charisma faced a great power vacuum. Not leaving a clear heir behind and your will to the strongest triggered an inevitable throne war among your most trusted generals and commanders, known as the Diadochi, successors. This process went down in history as the Wars of the Diadochi and witnessed bloody struggles lasting about 40 years. The Diadochi and the division of the empire. After your death, your generals struggled to gain control over different regions of the empire. Although there were attempts to keep the empire united, the personal ambitions and military power of each general made this unity impossible. Prominent Diadochi included Ptolemy, seized Egypt and founded the Ptolemaic dynasty that would rule Egypt for centuries. He also brought your body to Alexandria, making it a Hellenistic cultural center. Seleucus captured vast territories including Mesopotamia, Syria, parts of Anatolia, and the eastern regions of the Persian Empire, founding the Seleucid Empire, one of the largest Hellenistic kingdoms in history. Antigonus Monophthalmus, the one-eyed, tried to reunite the empire by controlling a large part of Asia, Phrygia, and Lydia. However, other Diadochi allied against him and defeated and killed him at the Battle of Ipsus in 301 BC. Cassander controlled Macedonia and Greece, founding the Antigonid dynasty there. Lysimachus captured Thrace and parts of Anatolia. These generals constantly formed and broke alliances, fought continuous wars, and divided your empire's shares among themselves. Each transformed parts of your empire into kingdoms bearing their own names. Fragmentation of the empire and consequences. The wars of the Diadochi showed the definitive end of the unified empire you had built. As a result of the wars, instead of one large empire, 3 major and several minor Hellenistic kingdoms emerged across a wide geography from the eastern Mediterranean to the borders of India. Political instability. The wars caused long-term political instability and destruction in the region. Rise of Hellenistic kingdoms. The Ptolemaic in Egypt, Seleucid in the Near East, and Antigonid in Macedonia became the greatest political legacies built upon your conquests. These kingdoms shaped regional politics and culture for centuries. Hellenistic cities like Alexandria, Antioch, and Pergamon became centers of this cultural synthesis and science. New balance of powers. The fragmentation of the empire created a new balance of power in the Mediterranean and Middle East. This situation would prepare suitable ground for the future expansion of the Roman Empire eastward. Alexander's enduring influence. Although your death and the subsequent bloody inheritance wars meant the end of the unified empire you built, it did not erase your influence on history. Your military genius and administrative principles inspired many commanders for centuries. Cultural transformation. Your greatest legacy was the beginning of the Hellenistic age and the magnificent attempt at synthesis between Eastern and Western cultures. The cities you conquered and founded became living centers of this cultural interaction. Geographic knowledge. Your campaigns contributed to the expansion of the ancient world's geographical knowledge and the opening of new trade routes. As Alexander, you immortalized as a figure who, along with being a conqueror who brought the world to its knees, even in death, triggered the birth of new civilizations and kingdoms from the fragments of your vast influence. Your power continued to live on in the new Hellenistic world born from the ashes of your fragmented empire. Thus, we have completed the epic story of Alexander the Great, born at the dawn of Macedonia, who scattered the fate of the world, and left his mark on the ages with the power of his sword and mind. Together, we crossed the Granicus, cut the Gordian knot, and put Darius to flight at Issus. We danced with the gods in Egypt. We shattered the Persian Empire at Gaugamela. We defeated elephant armies in India's harsh geography but had to turn back at the limits of our army's patience. We passed through the mercilessness of the Gadrosian Desert and reached our final destination, Babylon. Together, we lost ourselves in the depths of philosophy and walked in the depths of science. We tasted loneliness in palace intrigues and were shaken by the loss of our closest friend. We experienced the last conquest dream stretching to Arabia, created by deification claims, and your final breath in Babylon. Alexander left behind not just an empire but also a new world called the Hellenistic Age. His culture, language, and thoughts were woven into the fabric of the lands he conquered. He uniquely united East and West in a synthesis. The cities he founded, the roads opened, and the military legacy he left inspired many commanders for centuries. Although the wars of the Diadochi that began with his death fragmented his empire, his spirit and vision continued to live in the established Hellenistic kingdoms. The story of Alexander the Great is an epic full of lessons for us about the continuity of power, its price, the boundlessness of ambition, and the helplessness of even the greatest conqueror in the face of time and fate. He continues to live on the pages of history not just as a commander but as a legendary figure pushing the limits of humanity, uniting dreams with reality. I hope this historical journey has been both informative and inspiring for you. Now relax, clear your mind, and drift off sweetly. Good night.